Hello everyone, this is ABY here. This video is going to be another Star Wars video about Grogu, and this may contain spoilers from the season 2 and of the Star Wars series, The Mandalorian. You have been warned, since it may contain spoilers of the last few episodes of season 2. You have been warned. What happened to Grogu after that the Mandalorian was nicknamed, had handed over Grogu to Luke Skywalker? In the 15th episode of Season 2, Grogu had used the Seeing Stone on the planet Python, this the ancient Jedi planet, to reach out to any Jedis out in the galaxy to be found him. And he managed to reach out to at least one Jedi, to Luke. And Luke had promised Mando that he would teach Grogu about the ways of the Force to be a Jedi Knight. And that took place in 9 ABY when he promised him to be taking care of him. But here is another thing. What happened to Grogu afterwards? As we also know that the new Jedi Order that Luke Skywalker did form took place around 15 ABY. And even if that happened, we don't really much know what happened. It was about another 6 years when he was being to form the new Jedi Order around 15 ABY. And during that particular time though, because Luke, he trained new, because we all know, before he even started to form the new Jedi Order, he had traveled around the galaxy for lots of time to find some pieces of ancient Jedi lore, books, artifacts. But since the Empire had gone so great extent to wipe out as much about the Jedi Order that they could, trying to prevent any of the Order to be resurfaced again. But Luke had made his mission to restore the Jedi Order once again as a promise to Yoda before he passed. And he did that. And he formed the new Jedi Order around 15 ABY. But during that before though, because he formed that 6 years later, but during that particular time, he trained Grogu to be his new student. He's probably one among the first that he promised. But here is another thing. The last, even though that the order itself didn't last particularly long, since it fell around 28 ABY, just because of when Kylo Ren, aka Ben Solo, with help from Snoke, destroyed the Jedi Order, killed all the members, all the students, except for three which was off the world at the time, but they were later killed by one shortly afterwards though. Would then Luke would have been considered the last Jedi? And then here's the question. What happened to Grogu between 28 ABY and 15 ABY? I mean, he would be around 50 years old back in the season, at least in episode back in 9 ABY. And around the same time when the order fell, he would have been like 69 years old. So what happened to Grogu during this 13-time period of time between the 15 and 28 ABY, just before that Luke promised to teach Grogu the way of the Force and he made him to be a Jedi? So what happened to him? Well, we have no idea what happened to Grogu afterwards because since Luke promised that he will be trained as a Jedi in the way of the Force to Mando as a promise. But since we know that Luke did form the new Jedi Order around 15 ABY and had a lot of students, including his own nephew, Ben Solo, but it didn't last for particularly long though, because in 28 ABY, the entire order fell, and Luke was considered to be the very last Jedi alive. So, here is the main question. What happened to Grogu? Was he among those casualties of those students that were being killed by the Knights of Ren? Or was he alive and perhaps had left the Order sometimes before that? Well, it is a possibility made that it's a strong chance that he could have been one of those casualties among the students that have been killed by Ben and the other Knights of Ren. But he can also still be now in and away from the planet. Because around the same time when the massacre of the attack on the temple on Luke's New Order, three other students, at least in their perhaps early teens or early 20s or something, they were off the planet around the same time though. But when they returned, they found the entire temple completely burned to the ground. So, even they were the last three known survivors, including Luke, those three went to find Ben, trying to get some answers for him. By one of them was killed. That what makes Luke as the last survivor. But if the Grogu was still alive, even if he was perhaps off the planet somewhere else, perhaps on a mission or something, or maybe he left the Order, he felt he was well trained, or he could have been one of casualties during the when the Knights of Ren attacked the planet. What is the possibility that Grogu might have been among the casualties, but at the same time he can also be off the planet? After all, three Jedi Knights was off the planet when it happened. So, could Grogu been still alive even afterwards? I have to say yes. After all, he did survive the Jedi Purge during Night Order 66 when the Galactic Empire came to power. But here's the thing though. Even when he was alive around the 28th ABY when the Order fell, even we never had been mentioned about Grogu past in the movies. After all, this show actually took place sometimes after the ninth movie and the other movies has been made. The Mandalorian was made after season 9, episode 9 was made. So that had been the explanation why they never mentioned Grogu or perhaps even a species of Yoda in the movie itself, or perhaps in afterwards. But since he was still considered as a baby, an infant back in season 2 of Mandalorian, which took place around 9 ABY. But even if he was then promised by Luke being taken care of him, teach by the ways of the Force, so between 9 ABY and 28 ABY, there's like 19 years of between that. So what happened to him between almost that 20 years of time? Well, it is quite simple maybe that he was trained as a Jedi Knight, and he was strong, since he was very powerful in the Force. It is possible that he was actually very fact trained to be a Jedi Knight. But what happened to him afterwards though? Because there are no mention about him in the movies because they were made after or before the series even was made. So what happened to Grogu in 28 ABY when the new Jedi Order fell against, well, I don't know. There is not much information. But I do know that The Mandalorian will have a third season in the 21st December 2021. That is at least for what I did find out. But I cannot say for sure what happened to Grogu afterwards. Because since he left Mando around 9 ABY to join Luke to be trained to be as a Jedi, so considered from that part, we don't know much about what happened to him afterwards. There is not mentioned about They were not mentioned about any sort of casualties, but if I would say I do hope Grogu did survive, that he was off the planet and that he maybe had been full trained Jedi Knight by the time, or maybe he was away somewhere else. Maybe he left the Order before it even happened. But like I said, we don't know. But if there was anyone who can have any sort of suggestions or idea of what could have happened to Grogu after that Luke took him in, and after what couldn't happen to him after the Order fell. If anyone has any idea of what could have happened to Grogu, but what happened to him if he was killed among the other students in when the Order fell, or if he could have left the Order, or maybe was off the planet around the same time what happened. If you have any suggestions or ideas, please let me know in the comment section below, because I am curious to know what you all think what could happen to Grogu. After all, Yoda's species is very interesting. And that's all I want to say in this particular video. And once again, subscribe, leave a comment, and as always, once again, Switch W over and out.